Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, I'm Jonathan Martins and we've been exploring Azure Cloud Lab step by step to help you build hands-on skills that will translate directly into real-world cloud projects. Before we begin, make sure to like this video, subscribe and turn on notifications so you do not miss out on the next labs in this Azure series, okay? We're building this entire Azure journey together, one lab at a time. All right, so today we're going to be moving on to lab 6, and in our lab 6 we're basically going to be configuring a static website with Azure Storage and Azure CDN Content Delivery Network. For those of us very familiar with AWS S3 and CloudFront, this is the Azure equivalent. Okay, so now let's just talk a bit about our architecture diagram and then we can move on to the lab work. Okay, so for today we're going to host a simple static website, HTML, directly from our Azure storage account. Okay, and then we're going to connect it to Azure CDN, and the essence is that Azure CDN basically helps us distribute the content globally through Microsoft's network of edge locations. Okay, so how is this going to work? So in our Azure account, right, through the Azure Portal, we can enable the feature static website, okay? And when we enable that, Azure basically creates like a web container that holds all the web files, the HTML files, the images, the CSS, and so on. So what now happens is that when users try to visit the site, so they first of all hit the Azure CDN endpoint, right? And then when it hits the endpoint, Azure CDN basically checks that, do we have this file, right, cached at a nearby edge location? So it checks. If it sees the file present maybe in one of the edge locations, it can easily just serve it to the users and it's fast, right? And if it checks, it doesn't find the file there, it has to basically go check the storage account and then it fetches the file from the storage account, gets it back, and then it can cache it locally for next visitors that will come in. Okay, so this ensures fast delivery no matter where your visitors are, be it from Lagos to London or Toronto to Tokyo. So in short, the storage account basically hosts like our content, and then Azure CDN pretty much accelerates it globally. Okay, so just to give you more context, to give you a real world view, so let's imagine that we're launching an event site or maybe a startup landing page. You want people across continents to load your site quickly, but at the same time, we don't want to manage the servers or the web apps. So what Azure Storage Account and CDN does for us is that we can basically host our static front end completely serverless and then still be able to achieve like global reach. Okay, and this is exactly how many companies actually deliver lightweight websites, documentation portals, and even like marketing pages with zero backend complexity. Okay, so for example, let's say a small business in Nigeria can upload like its brand website once, and what Azure will do for them, or Azure can basically automatically make it fast for users in Europe or North America or Asia, to get access to this site, all through Microsoft CDN backbone. Okay, and you might want to ask that, okay, why why do this instead of just pushing your code to Render or Railway? And yes, of course, Render and Railway are, very awesome for quick personal projects. But when you're building inside a company or an organization that already uses Azure, right, maybe for the purpose of reliability and whatnot, you cannot, go outside the organization maybe to build yours and host it on Railway or Render, right? Another reason why we're doing this, of course, we're learning some of the resources and some of the tools that's provided for us from Microsoft Azure. So this gives us a good understanding of various tools, gives us a good understanding of various resources that we can get access to on the Azure Portal or Azure network, whatever the case may be. All right, so now we can get right into the lab for today. Okay. So we can create a resource group. It's called the static web. You can go ahead to create a storage account. Okay, something very simple storage account. We can just wait for this to, finish creating. All right, so we can go to our storage account, and yeah, so we can check our container. If we check our container, we can see that we just have only just the log container, but now we can go to static websites and we can enable our static website. For index document name, we can just have the index.html. Very similar to the error document part, we can do error.html, right? And then we can save. Okay, so yeah, so if we come back to our container, we can see the web container which I mentioned that Azure automatically creates, and then it can hold like all our files, for the web. So now we can upload. So we already have like files that we created. Is right in the GitHub repository. You can have access to it and then use these sample files. Okay. So yes, so we successfully uploaded this file, and we can go to, okay, so we can go back to overview. No. Yes, so we can go back to our static website, and we're going to see the primary endpoint here. So if we go to paste this here, yes, basically hello world. So this is what we have, and now we can basically get access to the file, because we just uploaded like the static HTML file, the static site to our storage account. With the primary endpoint, we can get access to it. Okay, so very straightforward, right? So now we want to create, we can create our Azure CDN endpoint, so we can, try to access it right using the CDN endpoint. But before we do that, we can also upload, the error file, so we can also see how that works. So I can upload this, and I can add the error HTML file and upload, and then can refresh. Okay, so very similar. If I maybe use a wrong path, you just see oops, error, and this is exactly what we have in our file. So I can show you. So yes, we have hello world index HTML, which we saw, and then yes, when there's an error, just say oops, error. So this is what we have. Very straightforward. Okay, so now we can go ahead to create a CDN endpoint. Okay, so we can, of course, it's now basically front doors. So we can create a front door, and we will just use the same resource group. Okay, so then I can name this, name our profile, I can call it CDN lab 6 profile. Okay, and it requires us to have an endpoint name, so I can just call this CDN 6 endpoint. Our origin type would be storage, because this is where our static files are stored, right, in the storage account. Okay, origin host name, we can use this, which was created. And yes, we want to enable caching, and we can ignore the query string, that's fine. And yes, we can create. Yes, we'll just wait a few minutes for our CDN endpoint to create. It's just for you to remember. So every time, so what we're going to show is that we'll basically show, getting access to the site, right, using the CDN endpoint. But just remember that every time a file is being requested for, it is cached at the nearest edge node, right? And when other users come try to get access to the site in that region, they can, get it instantly. So another thing is that yes, with the caching, then we also have to do what we call purging. We also have to purge, so that if we update that file, the old version would actually let me just say, like, the old version. So if we update the file, the old version may still be cached, right? So we want to basically purge it so that we can clear the cached version, and then it can fetch like the latest content from the storage account. That's pretty much the idea of purging, and I'll also show that as well. This might take a few more minutes and we'll get up and running. Okay, we're good. So we can go to all right, so we can see the endpoint host name here, and this is it. And then we can also purge the cache, which I've just explained. Yeah, so we can try to get access to the file here. So okay, so I can use a new tab. Okay, so let's just give this a few minutes to load. Okay, great. So now we have like hello world, and then also if we use a wrong path, right? So any wrong path we use basically is going to show error, right? And again, we also have like the purging cache here, right? So if we try to yeah, so basically if we try to purge cache, so we can select the endpoint, yeah, then we can select the domain, and then yeah, we can just purge our assets for the selected domain, right? So what happens basically is that it clears the cache version, right? That is in that's been cached by all the like edge nodes, and then it fetches like the latest content from the storage account. So this is the idea of purging the cache. And yeah, and then we're able to get access to the files using the CDN endpoint, right? So we can see that here because the URL for the CDN endpoint is different from that from the storage account. So that's pretty much it. I mean, that's the idea. Okay, this is still running. Yes, but yeah, that is basically the idea, for Lab 6, where we're able to configure a static website with Azure Storage and Azure CDN, right? So, yeah, with this, we've been able to learn how to host a static site using Azure Storage, very simple. And then we can also deliver it globally through Azure CDN, right? And of course, we can manage caching, and then we can purge outdated files, like just using the purge cache here. And then yeah, we can verify content delivery through the edge header, so you can always do that at any time. So yeah, so you could use this for your portfolios, maybe random sites, documentation portals, which I mentioned earlier, or let's say any serverless front end you want to go live, or you want live worldwide. Yeah, so when this is done, we can start deleting all our resources as usual. Make sure to delete your resources. This might take a while to be done, but that is the entire idea. Once this is done, I'm going to delete the resources. As usual, if this lab was really helpful for you, or it has helped you, or it helped you, drop a like, subscribe, and share it with someone who's learning Azure, right? And next week, we're going to be looking at something else. Until then, remember, I'm Jonathan Martins, and this has been Lab 6 in the Azure Lab series. Continue to stay curious, stay building, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much.